So, welcome everybody on day 19th of the book reading A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle. Chapter 6 Breaking Free. The beginning of freedom from the pain body lies first of all in the realization that you have a pain body. And more important, in your ability to stay present enough, alert enough to notice the pain body in yourself as a heavy influx of negative emotion when it becomes active. When it is recognized, it can no longer pretend to be you and live and renew itself through you. It is your conscious presence that breaks the identification with the pain body. When you don't identify with it, the pain body can no longer control your thinking and so cannot renew itself anymore by feeding on your thoughts. The pain body, in most cases, does not dissolve immediately. But once you have served the link between it and your thinking, the pain body begins to lose energy. Your thinking ceases to be clouded by emotion. Your present perceptions are no longer distorted by the past. The energy that was trapped in the pain body then changes into vibrational frequency and is transmuted into presence. In this way, the pain body becomes fuel for consciousness. This is why many of the wisest, most enlightened men and women on our planet once had a heavy pain body. Regardless of what you say or do, or what face you show to the world, your mental emotional state cannot be concealed. Every human being emanates an energy field that corresponds to his or her inner state, and most people can sense it, although they may feel someone else's energy emanation only subliminally. That is to say, they don't know that they sense it, yet it determines to a large extent how they feel about and react to that person. Some people are most clearly aware of it when they first meet someone, even before any words are exchanged. A little later, however, words take over the relationship, and with words come the roles that most people play. Attention then moves to the realm of mind, and the ability to sense the other person's energy field becomes greatly diminished. Nevertheless, it is still felt on an unconscious level. When you realize that pain bodies unconsciously seek more pain, that is to say, that they want something bad to happen, you will understand that many traffic accidents are caused by drivers whose pain bodies are active at that time. When two drivers with active pain bodies arrive at an intersection at the same time, the likelihood of an accident is many times greater than under normal circumstances. Unconsciously, they both want the accident to happen. The role of pain bodies in traffic accidents is most obvious in the phenomena called road rage. When drivers become physically violent, often over a trivial matter, such as someone in front of them driving too slowly. Acts of violence are committed by normal people who temporarily turn into maniacs. All over the world, at court proceedings, you hear the defense lawyer say, "This is totally out of character." And the accused, "I don't know what came over me." To my knowledge, so far, no defense lawyer has said to the judge, "Although the day may not be far off, this is a case of diminished responsibility. My client's pain body was activated and he did not know what he was doing. In fact, he didn't do it, his pain body did. Does that mean that people are not responsible for what they do when possessed by the pain body? My answer is, how can they be? How can you be responsible when you are unconscious, when you don't know what you're doing? However, in the greater scheme of things, human beings are meant to evolve into conscious beings, and those who don't will suffer the consequences of their unconsciousness. They're out of alignment with the evolutionary impulse of the universe. And even that is only relatively true. From a higher perspective, it is not possible to be out of alignment with the evolution of the universe. And even human unconsciousness and the suffering it generates is part of that evolution. When you can't stand the endless cycle of suffering anymore, you begin to awaken. So the pain body has its necessary place in the larger picture. So, what's most important is to get rid, how to break free from this pain body, which is nothing but a collection of all old negative emotions stored as trauma in your actual physical body, is to actually start recognizing it, and is to give it that recognition that it exists, because it exists in everybody. ऐसा यहाँ कोई नहीं है जिसके अंदर, फिजिकल बॉडी के अंदर, वो पेन बॉडी नहीं है. And if we come from, say, the concept or the terminology of the law of karma, this pain body is nothing but your unresolved karmas from either your past lives or from this life. Because at the end of the day, the law of karma is alive till the time you exist in the body and in your further incarnations. So these are impressions of whatever is it that you have done in your past life. So because you can be a victim in any of your past life or your current life, or you could be the victimizer. In both cases कर्मा क्रिएट हुआ है, और जब तक वो कर्मा रिजॉल्व नहीं होगा, it will. And that's the reason why we are here on this earth, planet earth, is that there is a karmic baggage that has not been set off, and it is stored somewhere in our physical body known as the pain body. So it exists in everyone. तो ये नहीं आप बोल सकते यार उसमें नहीं है या मेरे में नहीं है. If you are here, that means there is a karma backlog, there is a karma baggage, and that is nothing but a part of a pain body experience which is stored as trauma inside your body. And when certain things that come up, they trigger it. So, there is a trigger that then triggers that unresolved trauma into, a state where the person can be totally, hijacked. That pain body can totally hijack the person, and the person, after when that experience happens, realizes it was not me. Pata nahi kya hua, what came over me. And it's actually possible, and it happens with a lot of people. It's not easy to say that you want to commit a murder, but it's altogether totally, very difficult to commit a murder, but people do. So that is where this pain body takes over and hijacks the mind in such a way that the person does not know what is happening. And that's the intensity of that psychic hijacking of the mind by the pain body. Because in normal reality or a normal person, even when he thinks, he will feel scared, leave altogether that you're performing that act. So the pain body can go to an extreme. But इससे break free करने के लिए सबसे पहली चीज है is to recognize that yes, this exists. And when you start recognizing that this is coming from your pain body, and you start recognizing that fact that it exists, that is where you are now in a state of awareness that yes, the pain body exists. And then when you align yourself towards living a life which is being more consciously aware in the now, in the present moment, rather than, drifting away from the past or into the future, that is where you slowly start to dissolve this pain body and, get to that state of awareness of being in the now, slowly dissolving the pain body. So you can't, it's rightly mentioned in the chapter that you can't go to the court and say it was the client's pain body that did it, but it was not that. So ultimately, you need to recognize that it exists. And only when you start being consciously aware and start staying in the moment, this pain body starts to dissolve. Plus, yes, there are a lot of other therapeutic modalities where you can also work with your unresolved traumas and you can, sort these issues. Presence. A woman in her 30s came to see me. As she greeted me, I could sense the pain behind her polite and superficial smile. She started telling me her story, and within 1 second, her smile changed into a grimace of pain. Then she began to sob uncontrollably. She said she felt lonely and unfulfilled. There was much anger and sadness. As a child, she had been abused by physically violent father. I saw quickly that her pain was not caused by her present life circumstances, but by an extraordinary heavy pain body. Her pain body had become the filter through which she viewed her life situation. She was not yet able to see the link between the emotional pain and her thoughts, being completely identified with both. She could not yet see that she was feeding the pain body with her thoughts. In other words, she lived with the burden of a deeply unhappy self. At some level, however, she must have realized that her pain originated within herself, that she was a burden to herself. She was ready to awaken, and this is why she had come. I directed the focus of her attention to what she was feeling inside her body and asked her to sense the emotion directly instead of through the filter of her unhappy thoughts, her unhappy story. She said she had come expecting me to show her the way out of her unhappiness, not into it. Reluctantly, however, she did what I asked her to do. Tears were rolling down her face, her whole body was shaken. At this moment, this is what you feel. I said, there is nothing you can do about the fact that at this moment, this is what you feel. Now, instead of wanting this moment to be different from the way it is, which adds more pain to the pain that is already there, it is possible for you. Is it possible for you to completely accept that this is what you feel right now? She was quiet for a moment. Suddenly, she looked impatient, as if she was about to get up and said angrily, no, I don't want to accept this. Who is speaking? I asked her. You or the unhappiness in you? Can you see that your unhappiness about being unhappy is just another layer of unhappiness? She became quiet again. I am not asking you to do anything. All I'm asking is that you find out whether it is possible for you to allow those feelings to be there. In other words, and this may sound strange, if you don't mind being unhappy, what happens to the unhappiness? Don't you want to find out? She looked puzzled briefly, and after a minute or so of sitting silently, I suddenly noticed a significant shift in her energy field. She said, this is weird. I am still unhappy, but now there is space around it. It seems to matter less. This is the first time I heard somebody put it like this. There is space around my unhappiness, that space, of course, comes when there is inner acceptance of whatever you are experiencing in the present moment. I didn't say much else, allowing her to be with the experience. Later, she came to understand that the moment she stopped identifying with the feeling, the old painful emotion that lived in her, the moment she put her attention on it directly without trying to resist it, it could no longer control her thinking and so became mixed up with a mentally constructed story called the unhappy me. Another dimension had come into her life that transcended her personal past, the dimension of presence. Since you cannot be unhappy without an unhappy story, this was the end of her unhappiness. It was also the beginning of the end of her pain body. Emotion in itself is not unhappiness. Only emotion plus an unhappy story is happiness. I repeat, it's a very powerful line. Emotion in itself is not unhappiness. Only an emotion plus an unhappy story is unhappiness. When our sessions came to an end, it was fulfilling to know that I had just witnessed the arising of presence in another human being. The very reason for our existence in human form is to bring that dimension of consciousness into this world. I had also witnessed a diminishment of the pain body, not through fighting it, but through bringing the light of consciousness to it. A few minutes after my visitor left, a friend arrived to drop something off. As soon as she came into the room, she said, "What happened here? The energy feels heavy and murky. It also makes me feel sick. You need to open the windows, burn some incense." I explained that I had just witnessed a major release in someone with a very dense pain body, and that was she felt must be of some of the energy that was released during our session. My friend, however, didn't want to stay and listen. She wanted to get away as soon as possible. I opened the windows, went out to have dinner at a small Indian restaurant nearby. What happened there was clever further confirmation of what I already know, that on some level, all seemingly individual human pain bodies are connected. Although the form of this particular confirmation did come as a shock. So when you're talking about this example in this book of how this lady came to Eckhart Tolle for one of her sessions in order to release, get rid of her story of unhappiness and how they worked with it. So the first thing, when you actually recognize that this exists, that is like 50% the problem has been sorted. Because आधे लोग उस unconscious state में होते हैं where they do not want to accept that there is an issue, where the facade of which how they are running their lives is so predominant that in order to open their eyes to the reality for a reality check, they are not ready. And maximum humans are on that state where, as per them, they are always right and the others are wrong. That's one of the major reasons why this branch of psychology, psychotherapy came into being, because the cause of all issues, when it comes down to I am right but the others are wrong, means that there needs to be some psychological healing or some psychological counseling that is required. Because in all situations, you cannot be always right. That's a myth. So there are situations where you might be right. There are situations where you might be wrong. But it cannot be that you are right in almost all the situation and the others are wrong. So that is a distorted reality projected by the mind, facilitated through the pain body. और जब आप उस पर्दे को वहां से निकालते हो and recognize करते हो कि yes, this is my pain body and it exists, and then slowly it starts to dissipate. And when they say key, when you work with all these experiences, there is a heavy release, and you can actually sense. I mean, those who are in this line of energy or who are sensitive to energies can actually sense, because that pain body, that person would have such a strong negative aura that anybody who is in connection through closely will actually feel. I mean, how many times has it happened with you guys that you met this person for the first time, you don't know, but you started getting this negative feeling, घबराहट हो रही है, बंदा नहीं अच्छा लग रहा, because that's a place where whatever is in you, the other person's pain body or the other person's entire aura also, since the aura is connected in the energy field through the physical body, through the pain body, you start feeling the difference. Okay. And you can sense it. A lot of times it happens, and especially all those who are in this energy school, who are exposed to these modalities or these different kinds of energy works, energy medicine work, they can actually sense it, because it is such a strong, dense form of negativity that comes out, that it's there, and you actually have to make sure that you get the windows open or you burn some incense so that you're able to release that negativity. So burning an incense is one of the most powerful, सबसे पुराना, सबसे सस्ता टिकाऊ, and one of the best ways to actually clear the negative space in your house. So just get nice handmade agarbatti incense sticks and just burn one in a house with an intention to ward off all the negativity from the house, and it really works. और पुराने जितने भी अगर आप पुराने देखोगे हिंदुइज्म में, they all used to burn incenses. आज भी a lot of people when they enter the office, the first thing is they do, वो धूप अगरबत्ती करते हैं. The logic is that the beings of consciousness in the incense have the power to ward off all the negativity and clean them. So you guys can always do that. And also very important, which was mentioned, which I repeated, is that the emotion is never the major issue. It is the story behind the emotion, which is created by our own mind with the help of our pain body, triggers it in. Emotion to emotion hai. And all emotions exist because they are required, and they are, I mean, emotion just has to be lived. In itself, the emotion never has an issue. But जो story उस emotion के साथ हमने बना ली है, सारी कहानी उस story की है. फिर then that comes a stage where you say, emotion गया तेल लेने, उसने मेरे साथ ऐसे किया था. So because it's the association and the attachment of that story with that particular emotion, that is an issue. Because emotion तो उस टाइम पे आपको गुस्सा आएगा, आप जो भी हो बोल दोगे. What clings on to you is not the anger. What clings on to you, which leaves a mark in your memory, which becomes a part of your pain body, is that story with that external person, situation, event, or circumstance. That is what you carry forward. Emotion तो उस टाइम पे आके ऊपर नीचे भी हो जाता है, but वो story रह जाती है. And that's where the mind takes it, the pain body takes over the mind, and the whole story of all this negativity, negative anxieties and all, then slowly creep. So start dissociating your emotions with any of those stories, because see, at the end of the day, it's a story, it's your creation, it's the mind, it's the creation of your mind, it's not the reality. But mind ने उसको एक meaning दे दिया. The return of the pain body. I sat down at a table and ordered a meal. There were a few other guests at a nearby table. There was a middle aged man in a wheelchair who was just finishing his meal. He glanced at me once, briefly but intensely. A few minutes passed. Suddenly he became restless, agitated. His body began twitching. The waiter came to take his plate. The man started arguing with him. The food was no good. It was dreadful. Then why did you eat it? Asked the waiter. And that really set him off. He started shouting, become abusive. While words were coming out of his mouth, intense, violent hatred filled the room. One could feel that energy entering the cells of one's body, looking for something to latch onto. Now he was shouting at other guests too, but for some strange reason, ignoring me completely as I sat in intense presence. I suspected that the universal human pain body had come back to me. Your thought, you thought you defeated me. Look, I am still here. I also considered the possibility that the released energy field left behind after our session followed me to the restaurant and attached itself to the other person in whom it found a compatible vibrational frequency, that is to say, a heavy pain body. The manager opened the door. Just leave, just leave. The man zoomed out in his electric wheelchair, leaving everyone stunned. 1 minute later, his return. His pain body wasn't finished yet. It needed more. He pushed open the door with his wheelchair, shouting obscenities. A waitress tried to stop him from coming in. He put his chair in fast forward and pinned her against the wall. Other guests jumped up and tried to pull him away, shouting, screaming, pandemonium. A little later, a policeman arrived. The man was quiet, was asked to leave and not return. The waitress, fortunately, was not hurt, except for bruises on her legs. When it was all over, the manager came to my table and asked me, half jokingly, but perhaps feeling intuitively that there was some connection, did you cause all this? So it's very funny. It sounds funny कि मेरे से वो transfer हो गई होगी and everything. But yeah, these kind of things, see, at the end of the day, everything is energy. And energy में ना एक ये attraction बहुत होता है. So, if it's a heavy pain body, it will be compatible with a person who has a heavy pain body. So, yes. And the pain body is such that, it can come back because it's not lived, it's not had that full maza. So ये बार बार, it happens with people. So what's not important is how the pain body transfers and everything, but what's more important is how to work with our own pain body so that we are able to get free of that. We are able to, get into that state where the pain body cannot take over the mind and, hijack the same. The pain body in children. Children's pain bodies sometimes manifest as moodiness or withdrawal. The child becomes sullen, refuses to interact, and may sit in a corner, hugging a doll or sucking a thumb. They can also manifest as weeping fits or temper tantrums. The child screams, may throw him or herself on the floor, or become destructive. Thwarted wanting can easily trigger the pain body, and in a developing ego, the force of wanting can be intense. Parents may watch helplessly in comprehension and disbelief as their little angel becomes transformed within a few seconds into a little monster. Where does all that unhappiness come from? They wonder. To a greater or lesser extent, it is the child's share of the collective pain body of humanity, which goes back to very origin of the human ego. But the child may also already have taken on pain from his or her parents' pain bodies, and so the parents may see in the child a reflection of what is also in them. Highly sensitive children are particularly affected by their parents' pain bodies. Having to witness their parents' insane drama causes almost unbearable emotional pain, and so it is often these sensitive children who grow into adults with heavy pain bodies. Children are not fooled by the parents who try to hide their pain body from them, who say to each other, we mustn't fight in front of the children. This usually means while the parents make polite conversation, the home is pervaded with negative energy. Suppressed pain bodies are extremely toxic, even more so than openly active ones. And the psychic toxicity is absorbed by the children and contributes to the development of their own pain body. So it's very interesting here to know that this pain body actually exists in children, and in a lot of cases, what they see in the outside world when it comes to their parents, the father and the mother, they actually derive impressions from that, and in together contribute to the energy in their own pain body. So it's not that it is your own experience that you have undergone yourself, but it is in cases of children also the experiences they are actually seeing. So if the mother and father are fighting in front of the children, the child is picking up that negativity, and that is actually getting attached to his pain body, making it more denser and denser. And if a child is watching, something which is negative on a TV or a digital gadget, and it has a lot of negativity, he is picking up those impressions of the negativity and contributing more towards his pain body and making it heavier. So it's very important to be concerned that the children will not necessarily experience themselves, but they can also pick it up from the experiences they are seeing. And that's the same for us. Not necessarily that you have gone through trauma, that you've enhanced the heaviness in your pain body. It is that you have witnessed, you have seen the trauma in front of you. There has been a shocking accident in front of you where you saw what happened, or you see in front of you that somebody is beating up somebody else. So these also contribute towards your own pain body. So खाली experience नहीं होता, उसमें भी आता है. So there are a lot of factors that contribute towards these kind of traumatic experiences. But again, what's more important for us is to concentrate on how to break free from this pain body. But yes, for information, it is good that we know कि pain body के contributors क्या क्या है, so that we are aware of that as well. But the key is always to be recognized that the pain body exists, and then work with your pain body in order to get to not making sure that it empowers and hijacks the mind. Some children learn subliminally about ego and pain body simply by living with very unconscious parents. A woman whose parents both had strong egos and heavy pain bodies told me that often when her parents were shouting and screaming at each other, she would look at them, and although she loved them, would say to herself, these people are nuts. How did I ever end up here? There was already an awareness in her of the insanity of living in such a way. That awareness helped reduce the amount of pain she absorbed by her parents. Parents often wonder how to deal with their child's pain body. The primary question is, of course, are they dealing with their own? Do they recognize it within themselves? Are they able to stay present enough when it becomes activated so that they can be aware of the emotion, of the feeling level before it gets a chance to turn into thinking and thus into an unhappy person? When the child is having a pain body attack, there isn't much you can do except to stay present so that you are not drawn into an emotional reaction. The child's pain body would only feed on it. Pain bodies can be extremely dramatic. Don't buy into the drama. Don't take it too seriously. If the pain body was triggered by thwarted wanting, don't give in now to its demands. Otherwise, the child will learn The more unhappy I become, the more likely I'm going to get what I want. This is a recipe for dysfunction in later life. The pain body will be frustrated by your non reaction and may briefly act up even more before it subsides. Fortunately, pain body episodes in children are usually more short lived than in adults. A little while after it has subsided, or perhaps the next day, you can talk to the child about what happened. But don't tell the child about what happened. Ask questions instead. For example, what was it that came over you yesterday when you wouldn't stop screaming? Do you remember? What did it feel like? Was it a good feeling? The thing that came over you, does it have a name? No. If it has a name, what would it be called? If you could see it, what would it look like? Can you paint a picture of what it would look like, what happened to it when it went away? Did it go to sleep? Do you think it may come back? These are just a few suggested questions. All these questions are designed to awaken the witnessing faculty in the child, which is presence. They will help the children to disidentify from the pain body. You may also want to talk to the children about your own pain body using the child's terminology. The next time the child gets taken over by the pain body, you can say, "It's come back, hasn't it?" Use whatever words the child used when you talk about it. Direct the child's attention to what it feels like. Let your attitude be one of interest or curiosity rather than one of criticism or condemnation. It is unlikely that this will stop the pain body in its tracks, and it may appear that the child will not even be hearing you, yet some awareness will remain in the background of the child's consciousness even while the pain body is active. After a few times, the awareness will have grown stronger and the pain body will have weakened. The child is growing in presence. One day, you may find that the child is the one to point out to you that your own pain body has taken control of you. So, it's very interesting how you can, just work with kids with in a question format. You know, बच्चों के साथ जब भी आप बात कर रहे हो ना, see, at the end of the day, they also don't know what is happening. And they are so innocent beings that when you start working with them through questions or through storytelling, they actually will explain the entire situation in a manner where they would be getting more awareness, they would be more in the presence, they would be more in the now, and actually working with their issues. सो बच्चों को डांटने से कुछ नहीं होगा, आपका बीपी बढ़ेगा, आपको टेंशन होगी, बच्चा ढीठ बनेगा, रिबेल बनेगा, और कुछ नहीं होगा. बट इन ऑर्डर टू वर्क विद योर चाइल्ड, मेक देम कंफर्टेबल, नॉट एट दैट टाइम. उस टाइम पे कुछ ना करो, थोड़ी देर बाद 3-4 घंटे दे दो, बिकॉज दैट स्पर ऑफ द मोमेंट रिएक्शन एंड द स्पर ऑफ द मोमेंट वट एवर यू डू, it is not going to have any impact. Give it time to settle. Give it time. Do not do anything that time. Unless or until it's an emergency situation or whatever, that's separate. But if you're just working on the mental level of the child, पहले उसको शांत करो, उस टाइम पे कुछ नहीं करना. Later on, start asking them questions or start working with them and saying, what is it there? What is the story that they have made for this situation? And when you are coming from that premise of being conscious or consciously aware, you will be able to understand what is going on with the child, and you will be able to work with the child for the benefit of the child, and in the same process be more aware about your own self, your own pain body, and being in that present moment, and experiencing that presence of the being within you. these gussa, dant, maar, they're all old school thoughts. They don't work. I probably think they worked when we were growing up, but it does not work right now. So कुछ करने का फायदा नहीं, अपना बीपी बढ़ाओगे, अपनी अपने आप को हार्म करोगे. Let it settle down, take some time with the child, and then start working with the child. Ask them questions, give them that attention, because in a lot of cases, sometimes it is just about the undivided attention of the parent. और वो चाइल्ड का सब ड्रामा इसलिए चल रहा होता है कि उसको अटेंशन चाहिए. और जब आपने शांति से उसको बैठा के बात करनी शुरू कर दी, maximum healing has been done, because they're craving for that attention. And when you are as an advice or a friendly advice, when you are working, when you are sitting with your children, try not to have your mobile around, or if it's there, put it on silent, and give your child that 5-minute, 10-minute, 15-minute attention and work with them. 15 मिनट में कोई इतनी इंपॉर्टेंट कॉल नहीं आ रही कि आप उसको अवॉइड नहीं कर सकते हो. But that 15 minutes for your child is so important, where he has your undivided attention, that you cannot ignore the benefits the child is going to derive from that 15 minutes undivided attention. And now when you are in your house with your children, just be more aware. जब आपके बच्चे आपसे को बात कर रहे हैं, what is it that you as a parent doing? Are you listening to them, or are you on your phone giving instructions to somebody else? What is it that you are doing? That's for you now to check in your own actual reality. What is it that I am doing? How is my pain body guiding me, and I'm not able to give that attention to the child? So this opens up a lot of things for the parents as well. Try next time your child comes to you, just see आप कैसे react कर रहे हो, and what is it that you are doing. Be more consciously aware. चाहे वो 5-10 मिनट 15 मिनट की बात है, ज्यादा नहीं करना. Only in that, just be clear क्या हो रहा है, क्या नहीं हो. Unhappiness. Not all unhappiness is of the pain body. Some of it is new unhappiness created whenever you are out of alignment with the present moment. When the now is denied in one way or another, when you recognize that the present moment is always already the case and therefore inevitable, you can bring an uncompromising inner yes to it, and so not only create no further unhappiness, but with inner resistance gone, find yourself completely empowered by life itself. The pain body's unhappiness is always clearly out of proportion to the apparent cause. In other words, it is an overreaction. This is how it is recognized, although not usually by the sufferer. The person possessed, someone with a heavy pain body, easily finds reasons for being upset, angry, hurt, sad, or fearful. Relatively insignificant things that someone else would shrug off with a smile or not even notice becomes the apparent cause of intense unhappiness. They are, of course, not the true cause, but only act as a trigger. They bring back to life the old accumulated emotion. The emotion then moves into the head and amplifies and energizes the egoic mind structures. Pain body and ego are close relatives. They need each other. The triggering event or situation is then interpreted and reacted to through the screen of a heavily emotional ego. This is to say, its significance becomes completely distorted. You look at the present through the eyes of the emotional past within you. In other words, what you see and experience is not in the event or situation, but in you. Or in some cases, It may be there in the event or situation, but you amplify it through your reaction. This amplification is what the pain body wants and needs and what it feeds. For someone possessed by a heavy pain body, it is often impossible to step outside his or her distorted interpretation. The heavily emotional story, the more negative emotion there is in a story, the heavier and more impenetrable it becomes. And so the story is not recognized as such, but is taken to be reality. When you are completely trapped in the moment of thought and the accompanying emotion, stepping outside is not possible because you don't even know that there is an outside. You are trapped in your own movie or dream, trapped in your own hell. To you, it is a reality and no other reality is possible. And as far as you are concerned, your reaction is the only possible reaction. So, not all unhappiness is of the pain body. Okay. क्योंकि जब ये कॉम्बिनेशन में चलता है ना, तो नई नई अनहैप्पीनेस भी gets created whenever there is something that is out of alignment. So but the whole concept is उस सिचुएशन में हमें कुछ समझ नहीं आता because we are so badly possessed with the pain body and the egoic mind that for us there is no reality, and what we feel is happening is the reality. Okay. So उस चीज में आपको हमेशा अपने आप को हाउ टू बी एंड लिव इन द प्रेजेंट मोमेंट वहां पे उस प्रमाइस पे लेके आना.